The darkness of space was quiet, endless, and cold. For centuries, no one had spoken from beyond the Milky Way's edge. Humanity had expanded far, building colonies across thousands of worlds. The stars glittered with human cities and silent satellites, yet even among this greatness, humanity listened for voices that might come from beyond. Then, one day, a signal arrived. It came from a small system near the Orion arm, weak, broken, almost lost in cosmic noise. The message was old-fashioned, a simple radio pulse, but its content was clear. It was a cry for help. The scientists at the Deep Space Listening Station 12 could hardly believe it. The signal repeated every hour, in a language their AI translators struggled to decode. It wasn't human, but the tone, the rhythm, the desperation felt painfully familiar. Dr. Lena Miles, chief linguist, leaned forward in her chair as the sound replayed through the speakers. It wasn't words that she understood, but she heard fear in it. "Someone's begging for help," she whispered. Within hours, the message spread through the United Earth Network. Military ships, research fleets, and exploration teams all debated the same question: should humanity answer? After 3 days of decoding, the message finally revealed its full meaning. The voice belonged to a species called the Talani, from a planet named Varos IV. They were under attack by an empire known as the Karn Dominion, a brutal force that conquered weaker civilizations for their resources. The Talani begged for mercy. They said, "We have no weapons. They are burning our cities, please, help us." The United Earth Council gathered in the orbital city of New Geneva. The great glass dome overlooked the curve of Earth below, blue and shining like a jewel. Representatives from colonies and fleets appeared as holograms, their faces grave. "Chairperson," said Admiral Reyes, the commander of the 8th Fleet, "we cannot ignore this. If the Karn Dominion exists, they might one day find us." Dr. Miles, who had been brought in to interpret the alien communication, added quietly, "They're not asking for war. They're asking for rescue. If humanity stands for peace, we can't turn away." There was silence for a long moment. Finally, Chairperson Arjun Kaur nodded. "Then humanity will answer. We will send aid. We will show them who we are." The decision sent ripples through the stars. Within days, the fleet known as Task Force Solace was assembled, a mix of humanitarian ships, defense cruisers, and medical carriers. They were to travel to Varos IV, evacuate survivors, and bring peace where war had spread. The flagship, UES Horizon, stood at the center, a ship the size of a small moon, shining silver in the darkness. Its captain, Commander Elias Trent, was a calm man with a soldier's discipline and a poet's heart. When he received his orders, he said simply, "If they need help, they'll get it. No one cries for mercy under our watch." The journey to Varos IV took 12 days through the slipstream. The fleet moved like a river of light, engines glowing blue across the black void. On the ships, soldiers trained, engineers checked equipment, and medics prepared for the wounded they expected to find. Dr. Miles walked through the observation deck of the Horizon, watching the stars stretch past the windows. She wondered what the Talani looked like, what kind of people they were, what songs they sang, what dreams they feared losing. Captain Trent joined her, hands folded behind his back. "You look worried, Doctor." "I am," she admitted. "We don't know what we're walking into. What if it's a trap?" Trent gave a small smile. "Then we deal with it. Humanity has faced worse. We've survived our own wars, our own darkness. We learned from it. That's why we help others now." Dr. Miles looked at him, then nodded. His calmness was contagious, but deep down even Trent felt uneasy. Something about the signal didn't feel right. It had repeated perfectly every 60 minutes without variation. Almost like it was automated. Still they continued. The message was too desperate to ignore. When they finally reached the Varos system, the view took their breath away. The planet below was beautiful, covered in emerald forests, silver oceans, and golden deserts. But much of it burned. Clouds of smoke rose into orbit, and flashes of light lit the dark side like silent lightning. The communications officer spoke. "We're detecting massive energy signatures on the surface, weapon discharges. The Talani defense grid is down. No response from local networks." Captain Trent frowned. "Open a channel. Broadcast on all frequencies. This is the United Earthship Horizon representing humanity. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Please respond. Static. Then as faintly in a voice. Humans, you came. We thought it was too late. The translator turned the alien words into trembling English. They are everywhere. The Karn. The transmission cut off, replaced by static and a sudden burst of interference. Sir, said the tactical officer, we're being scanned. Multiple ships inbound. The main screen flickered to life, showing enormous shapes emerging from the planet's shadow. Black ships, sharp and angular, glowing with red energy. The Karn Dominion had arrived. There were dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. The bridge went silent. Then a transmission came through. This time not from the Talani, but the Karn. A deep, cold voice echoed through the horizon speakers. Unknown vessels, you have entered Karn-controlled space. The Talani are our subjects. Leave now or share their fate. Trent's jaw tightened. This is a humanitarian mission. We come in peace, the voice laughed, low and cruel. Peace is for the strong. You should not have come. The transmission ended. The horizon of the planet glowed brighter. Karn ships began charging their weapons. Trent turned to his crew. Shields up. All ships, defensive formation. Within seconds, the fleet locked into position. Drones deployed, interceptors launched, and the stars filled with movement. Humanity had come to help, not to fight. But now, there was no choice. The first shot came from the Karn. A lance of red light cut through the dark and slammed into one of the smaller human frigates. The ship exploded in a silent bloom of fire. All units return fire, Trent ordered. Space erupted in light. Blue and red beams crossed between the fleets, missiles streaked through the void, and explosions painted the blackness with fire. Humanity's ships fought bravely, their shields flaring, their cannons roaring like thunder, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Dr. Miles clung to her seat, watching the destruction from the command deck. Captain, we need to retreat. We can't save anyone like this. Trent didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the burning planet below. We came to help, he said softly. And we will. Then he gave the order. All medical ships move behind our line. Focus on rescue. Warships, cover them. We hold the line. The crew moved as one. They were outgunned, but they didn't break. One by one, the human ships formed a wall of light between the Karn and the planet. Even as their hulls burned, even as the enemy's fire tore through space, they stood firm. Humanity didn't retreat. They never had. Hours later, the battle was chaos. Wreckage drifted across orbit. Thousands of lives had already been lost. Yet through the smoke and silence, human rescue shuttles still landed on Varos 4, pulling the Tilani from burning ruins, giving food and medicine, lifting survivors into the sky. In one of those shuttles, a Tilani child looked out the window and whispered, "They came for us." Above, in the stars, Captain Trent's voice echoed across the fleet. "This isn't over. They wanted mercy and we gave it. If the Karn come again, they'll learn. Humanity's mercy is endless. But our wrath is too." And so began the war that would shake the stars. The space around Varos 4 was quiet again, but it was not peace. The battle had ended hours ago, and the wrecks of both human and Karn ships floated like silent tombs. Glowing fragments drifted across the black void, lighting the darkness like dying stars. The UES Horizon stood among the ruins, its hull scarred, its shields flickering. Inside, the crew worked without rest. Fires were out, engines were stable, but the cost of survival weighed heavily. Captain Elias Trent stood before the main viewport, hands clasped behind his back. Below, the green planet burned in long streaks of red. He could still hear the cries from the surface, the desperate voices of the Tilani begging for safety. His fleet had come for peace, but war had found them anyway. Dr. Lena Miles entered the bridge quietly. Her white uniform was stained with dust, her face tired. "We've evacuated about 6,000 Tilani so far," she said softly. "But there are millions more. The cities on the southern continent are gone." Trent nodded, his eyes hard. "And the Karn?" "Retreated," replied Commander Ruiz, the tactical officer. "They left orbit 3 hours ago. Our sensors show them regrouping beyond the second moon. They're not done." "They never are," Trent muttered. "They want us to run. But we won't. He turned to Dr. Miles. I need to know more about the Talani. Why would the Karn destroy them? They don't seem like warriors. She sighed. I've spoken with their leaders. The Talani are peaceful artists and scientists. They believe war is a failure of the spirit. They have no armies, no weapons. The Karn see them as weak, and they conquer what they call unfit civilizations. Unfit, Trent repeated. The word left a bitter taste. So they punish those who don't fight back. Yes, she said quietly, and they've done it before to others. Trent's eyes narrowed. Then it's time someone stood in their way. On the surface of Varos 4, the rescue camps grew each hour. Hundreds of tents and landing pads spread across the hills. Human doctors and engineers worked beside Talani survivors, building shelters, restoring water systems, and scanning for survivors trapped in ruins. The Talani, thin and pale, with luminous blue eyes and soft golden skin, watched the humans with awe. They had never seen such creatures, strong, scarred, yet kind. When the humans shared food and blankets, many of the Talani wept. Sergeant Amir Vale, a ground commander from Earth's Marine Corps, oversaw the rescue teams. He was a large man with calm eyes and a quiet voice. He treated every Talani with respect, calling them friends instead of aliens. One day, a young Talani boy named Seville tugged on his sleeve and asked, "Why do you help us? You don't even know us." Amir smiled. "Because once, long ago, we were like you. Weak. Afraid. We learned to fight not just for ourselves, but for anyone who needs it." The boy's eyes widened. "But you fight the Karn. They are too many." Amir looked toward the sky, where distant fire still glimmered in orbit. "Maybe, but they've never fought humans before." Meanwhile, back aboard the Horizon, Admiral Reyes arrived with reinforcements, 10 more ships from the nearest colony fleet. His voice boomed through the command deck. "Captain Trent, your defense of Varos was reckless," Reyes said sternly. "You disobeyed retreat orders, you cost us ships." Trent stood tall. "And saved thousands of lives. If we had left, the Talani would all be gone." Reyes frowned, folding his arms. "This isn't Earth's war. Our mission was humanitarian. You turned it into a battle." Trent met his gaze without fear. "Humanitarian missions mean saving lives, Admiral. Sometimes that means fighting for them." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Dr. Miles spoke. "With respect, Admiral, if we leave now, the Karn will finish what they started. They're regrouping. We can't abandon these people." Reyes sighed, his stern expression softening. "And what do you suggest we do, Captain?" Trent looked at the burning planet below. "We prepare. If the Karn want war, they'll get one." 2 days later, humanity's engineers had turned the rescue camp into a fortress. Drones patrolled the skies. Defense grids were built around the largest cities, and orbital satellites scanned every approach vector. Humanity had come for peace, but now they built for survival. At night, the Talani gathered around fires, listening to the humans tell stories. They learned about Earth's ancient history, about a species that had once fought among itself but had grown united under the stars. Dr. Miles often spoke to their leader, Elder Viral, an old Talani with calm eyes. He said, "Your people are strong. You fight even when the odds are against you." Lena smiled. "We've always had to fight for what's right. It's part of who we are." Viral looked thoughtful. "Perhaps the universe sent you here for a reason." But Lena's mind was elsewhere. In the data streams from the original distress call, she had found something strange, a hidden signal pattern. Someone had repeated the message endlessly, even when no one was left alive in the sending station. It looked automated. Who sent the call? She wondered aloud. Was it really the Talani, or someone else? That night, the Karn returned. Sensors screamed warnings as dozens of red energy signatures appeared above the atmosphere. The horizon glowed again. The enemy fleet had returned, larger and more organized. The horizon's alarms rang through the corridors. Soldiers rushed to stations, pilots to their fighters, engineers to the reactor rooms. Trent stood on the command deck, voice calm but strong. All ships, battle stations, protect the surface at all costs. Humanity stands here. Admiral Reyes joined him, watching the incoming enemy ships. They brought an entire war fleet, he said grimly. Good, Trent replied. Then they won't have to go far to find us. The Battle of Varos began with light, hundreds of explosions painting the black sky. The Karn descended like a storm, raining plasma and fire. Human interceptors met them head-on, darting between the larger ships like flashes of silver lightning. The Horizon's massive cannons roared, each blast tearing through enemy armor. Below, anti-orbital batteries built by human engineers fired blue streaks into the clouds, hitting the Karn dropships before they could land. On the surface, Sergeant Amir's team fought to defend the refugee camps. Talani civilians hid underground while human soldiers fought in the open fields. The air shimmered with fire, but humanity didn't break. Every man and woman fought with courage that surprised even the Talani. At one point, Amir saw Savell, the young Talani boy, trapped under fallen debris. Without hesitation, Amir ran through the fire, lifted the heavy beam, and carried the child to safety. When Seville opened his eyes, he whispered, "You saved me." Amir smiled through the smoke. That's what humans do. Hours passed. The Karn fleet began to falter under the relentless defense. For every human ship lost, 3 Karn vessels fell. They had never faced enemies who fought with such fury, not for conquest, but for protection. On the command deck, Dr. Miles shouted, "Captain, I've cracked the hidden code in the distress signal." Trent turned to her. "What did you find?" "It wasn't sent by the Talani," she said, eyes wide. "It was a warning from another species the Karn destroyed years ago. The signal was automated. The Talani only reused it when their own systems failed." Trent's expression hardened. "So the Karn have done this many times before?" "Yes," she said. "Dozens of worlds. They erase civilizations." Trent's fists clenched. "Then it ends here." He turned to the comms officer. "Broadcast. To all human ships. This is Captain Elias Trent of the United Earthship Horizon. The Karn Dominion calls this conquest. We call it murder. From this moment, humanity stands as shield and sword for every voice that cries for help. We are the line they will not cross." Across space, human ships answered, their comms filled with a single word, "I." When the battle finally ended, the Karn fleet broke and fled into the darkness. The sky of Varos 4 was filled with falling fire, but the world below still stood. The humans had held the line. On the ground, Talani and humans stood together under the same stars. The wounded were treated, the dead honored, and hope, fragile but real, began to grow again. Elder Varel looked at the stars and said softly, "We asked for help, and you came." Dr. Miles replied, "We came because someone had to." And Captain Trent, watching the last Karn ships vanish into the void, whispered words that would soon echo across the galaxy. They wanted fear. They'll remember humanity instead. Weeks passed since the Battle of Varos 4. The smoke had cleared, the wounded had healed, and the dead were remembered. Yet peace remained fragile. Humanity had saved the Talani, but the Karn Dominion was still out there, watching, waiting, rebuilding. The stars beyond Varos burned red with war. Captain Elias Trent stood in the command center of the UES Horizon, staring at the glowing map projected above the table. Red markers showed the Karn fleets. Blue lights showed humanity's ships. Between them stretched the uncharted void, a frontier no one had crossed. He turned to Dr. Lena Miles, who had been studying data recovered from Karn wreckage. "What do we know about their empire?" he asked. "Too much and not enough," she replied. "The Karn Dominion controls hundreds of systems. They rule through fear. Any world that resists is destroyed, its people enslaved or erased. Their technology is ancient but powerful. They use energy we've never seen before. Any weakness? Maybe," she said, pointing to the center of the map. "Their communications network runs through a single relay world, Karn Prime Nexus. If we take it down, their fleets lose contact. But it's heavily guarded." Trent crossed his arms. "Then that's our target. Admiral Reyes, who had joined the strategy meeting, frowned. "You're proposing to strike deep into enemy territory? That's suicide." "Maybe," Trent said quietly. "But it's the only way to stop them from hitting Varos again." Reyes studied him for a long moment. "You think humanity can fight an empire?" Trent looked out the window, where the stars shimmered like cold diamonds. "We've done it before, ourselves." On the surface of Varos 4, life slowly began to return. The forests healed, rivers ran clear again, and Talani children played among the ruins. Human engineers helped rebuild their cities, teaching them to use new technologies and defenses. Sergeant Amir Vale walked through one of the new settlements, surrounded by Talani workers who greeted him warmly. They trusted him completely now. Seville, the young boy he had saved, followed him everywhere. "Sergeant, will the Karn come back?" he asked one afternoon. Amir looked down at him and smiled. "Not if Captain Trent has anything to say about it." The boy tilted his head. "Why do you fight them?" "They're not your enemies." Amir's voice softened. "Because once, long ago, we fought monsters of our own, not with claws or ships, but with hatred. We learned that the only way to keep peace is to protect those who can't fight for themselves." Seville nodded slowly, as if trying to understand a lesson much older than he was. Back on the horizon, preparations for a new mission began. The humans called it Operation Dawnfire, a daring strike into Karn space to find their command center and cripple their war machine. Dr. Miles worked day and night with the science teams. From Karn wreckage, she had recovered strange black crystals, the power source behind their weapons and shields. The material pulsed faintly, almost alive. "These crystals," she explained to Trent, "are not natural. They're synthetic, but their energy is biological. It's as if the Karn grow them, not mine them." Trent frowned. "Grow them? From what?" "We don't know yet," she said, "but the readings are disturbing. It's like they're using living matter as energy." He said nothing, but a dark thought crossed his mind. What kind of empire feeds its ships with life? 3 days later, the Horizon and 5 other ships slipped into the void beyond Varos 4. Their mission was secret. Even the Talani didn't know their destination. They moved through dark space, silent and invisible. The stars faded behind them as they entered Karn-controlled regions. Every now and then, faint transmissions flickered through the static, whispers in alien tongues, distress calls long unanswered. The Karn left ruins wherever they went. Lieutenant Hana Lee, the Horizon's pilot, glanced at her sensors. "Captain, we're entering the coordinates of the Nexus system." Trent nodded. "All ships go dark. No transmissions." When they dropped out of Slipstream, the sight before them was both beautiful and terrible. The Karn Prime Nexus was a black world, not made of rock, but of metal. Entire continents shone with red lines like veins of fire. Towers stretched into space, surrounded by rings of ships and stations. It was a fortress, a machine world. "By the stars," whispered Dr. Miles. "They built a planet just to control their empire." The comms officer spoke softly. "Hundreds of ships in orbit, sir." "Too many to count," Reyes's voice came through the channel. "We can't fight that. We'll never get close." Trent's eyes narrowed. "We're not here to fight. We're here to send a message." Under Trent's command, a small strike team prepared for infiltration. Using stealth shuttles coated in light-bending armor, they descended toward the planet. Among them were Captain Trent, Dr. Miles, and Sergeant Amir Vale. They landed in a dark valley near one of the great towers. The air was thick and red, filled with the hum of machines. The ground itself seemed alive, metal veins pulsing beneath their feet. Dr. Miles scanned the readings. "The energy crystals are everywhere. The entire planet runs on them." As they moved closer to the tower, they found something that made their blood run cold. Rows of glowing pods built into the walls. Inside each pod floated a faint humanoid shape. Some were Talani, some were species unknown. "My God," Lena whispered. "They're using living beings to grow their power source." Trent stared at the rows of prisoners, his expression darkening. "That's what fuels their war." Sergeant Amir clenched his fists. "They call it conquest. It's just cruelty." Trent took a deep breath. "We're ending this. Set charges on the main conduit. We're taking this place down." As they worked, alarms suddenly blared through the valley. Red light filled the sky. "They found us," shouted Amir. Dozens of Karn soldiers emerged from the shadows, tall, armored with glowing red eyes. They moved like machines, their steps heavy and precise. "Defensive formation," Trent ordered. The humans took cover behind metal structures, returning fire with precise bursts. The air lit up with blue and red flashes. Dr. Miles ducked behind a console working on the data terminal. "I can access their network." "Give me 30 seconds. Trent fired his rifle, shielding her. "You've got 20. Amir moved like a storm, covering his teammates, his voice calm even in chaos. "Charge is set, Captain." The ground shook as explosions tore through the conduit lines. Fire spread along the metal walls like liquid light. "Got it," shouted Lena. "Uploading their data now. Fleet positions, command codes, everything." "Good work," Trent said. "Now let's go before this place blows." The team rushed back to their shuttle as the valley erupted behind them. Towers collapsed, flames rising into the red sky. The Karn soldiers fell one by one as explosions consumed the world they had built on suffering. As their shuttle lifted off, the nexus below burned brighter than a star. Back aboard the Horizon, the crew watched the destruction from orbit. The machine world crumbled, its energy network failing. Karn ships tried to flee but collided in chaos as their communications failed. Admiral Reyes stared at the screen in disbelief. "You did it, Captain. The entire Dominion network just went dark." Trent exhaled slowly. "Good. Maybe now the galaxy can breathe." Dr. Miles uploaded the stolen data. "We've got everything. Maps of their empire, details of their fleets, and records of every world they conquered. Some of these names, they're thousands of years old." Reyes turned to her. "We'll send this to Earth Command immediately." But Trent's gaze stayed on the burning planet. "No," he said softly. "Not yet." "We're not done." Lena looked at him. "What do you mean?" "They've lost their voice, but not their claws," he said. "The Karn will strike back. When they do, we'll be ready." He looked out at the stars where distant battles still flickered. They thought humanity was just another voice in the dark. They were wrong. We're the fire that answers. Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Dr. Miles stood beside Captain Trent. The stars stretched endless before them. She asked, "Do you think we can really stop them all?" Trent smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but we'll make them remember something they've forgotten." "What's that?" "That mercy doesn't make us weak," he said. "It's what gives our wrath meaning." And with that, the Horizon turned toward the next star, carrying humanity's promise into the endless dark. The galaxy held its breath. After the destruction of the Karn Prime Nexus, news spread quickly through human colonies and allied systems. The Talani were safe, for now, but the threat of the Karn Dominion still lingered like a shadow across the stars. They were an empire built on fear and cruelty, and although their command center had fallen, their fleets were still alive, scattered, and vengeful. Captain Elias Trent knew the coming days would test humanity in ways no battle ever had. The UES Horizon carried him and his crew toward the outer rim, where scattered colonies awaited orders. Admiral Reyes had joined him to oversee the assembly of a massive fleet. Hundreds of ships, from small scouts to massive warships, would come together in a single purpose, to defend not just one world, but the principles humanity stood for. Trent walked through the ship's corridors, watching humans of all backgrounds and soldiers, engineers, medics, preparing for the fight ahead. There was exhaustion etched in their faces, but also determination. Humanity had survived worse. They would survive this. In the command center, Dr. Lena Miles displayed the data stolen from the Nexus. "We have maps of the Karn fleet movements, systems they control, and their resources," she explained. "They'll hit us in ways we can't predict. But if we move quickly, we can outmaneuver them." Trent leaned over the table, studying the galaxy-wide map. "We can't just react. We need to strike first. Take the fight to them before they consolidate." Admiral Reyes shook his head. "It's risky. Our colonies are spread too thin. They'll hit us where we're weakest." "Then we make no weak points," Trent replied. "We unite them. Every ship, every colony, every human alive, they fight together. That's the only way." The assembly of the human fleet became a symbol of hope. From the outer rim to the core worlds, ships answered the call. Colony commanders coordinated through secure channels, training their forces together for the first time in history. On Veros 4, the Talani helped build defensive stations and transport fleets. They shared knowledge of planetary shields and energy conduits, Humans taught them tactical maneuvers and combat formations. In just days, the once peaceful Talani learned the basics of defending their world, not for conquest but for survival. Sergeant Amir Vale supervised training drills, his voice calm and steady. "Your strength isn't just in numbers," he told the Talani soldiers. "It's in purpose. Fight for something worth protecting, and nothing can break you." A young Talani pilot, Seville, looked up at him nervously. "Will it work?" Amir smiled. "It has to." Across the galaxy, the Karn Dominion stirred. Their fleets regrouped, and their leaders learned of the destruction of the Nexus. Rage filled the Empire. They had faced rebellion before, but never the wrath of humanity. Reports of human tactics, bravery, and unwavering mercy reached them, humans who rescued and protected instead of conquering. Their enemies had underestimated what it meant to face a species that fought not for fear or greed, but for honor and life. A Karn warlord, high in his crimson citadel, slammed his fist onto a console. "They are too strong, too unpredictable. Send everything. Crush them before they organize." But Trent and his crew had already anticipated this. Using the stolen data, humanity set traps, laid ambushes, and prepared a network of defenses. Systems that once seemed weak now held fleets, mines, and orbital shields. Humanity's wrath was patient, controlled, and precise. The first strike came without warning. In the Outer Rim, a Karn fleet attempted to hit an unprotected colony. Human scouts detected them early. Blue beams lit the darkness as ships engaged, intercepting bombers and interceptors. The battle was fierce but short. Humanity's forces, guided by knowledge stolen from the Nexus, predicted enemy movements. Every ship acted with purpose, every captain executing a plan they had never seen before. Commander Trent watched the battle from the horizon. "They underestimate us. That's their mistake," Dr. Miles added. "And every mistake counts." By the end of the day, the Karn fleet was decimated. Dozens of ships destroyed, hundreds captured, their energy reserves crippled. Humanity had not just defended, they had struck decisively. Word spread across the galaxy. Humanity fights for life, for allies, for justice. The Talani and other liberated species rallied to the human banner. Planets that had once cowered before the Karn now contributed ships, engineers, and soldiers. Together they formed a coalition, united by the idea that the weak should be protected, not enslaved. On Varos 4, Elder Varel addressed the gathered Talani and human crews. "We asked for help and humanity answered, but we have learned something more. Humans do not fight for themselves alone. They fight for all who cannot." Applause filled the camp. Soldiers cheered, engineers lifted their tools high, and children watched in awe. It was a moment of hope in the darkness, a spark that would grow into a blaze. Meanwhile, Trent prepared for the next step, moving into the heart of Karn space. "Their fleets are scattered," he told Admiral Reyes. "We strike where they are weakest. Cut off their resources, destroy their command points. We end their empire from the inside." Reyes hesitated. "It's dangerous." "The Karn will retaliate," Trent smiled grimly. "They already have. That's why we fight now, while we have the advantage. The moment we hesitate, they'll regain it." Dr. Miles leaned forward. "There's something else. The Nexus data shows the Karn are not just conquerors. They're experimenting. Planets we thought were destroyed were used for something more. I can't yet determine what, but it's disturbing." Trent's expression darkened. "Whatever it is, we'll make sure it never happens again." The final preparations took days. Fleet commanders coordinated their positions, planetary defenses were upgraded, and supply lines secured. Human ingenuity transformed raw materials into powerful weapons and shields, while medics prepared for inevitable casualties. Sergeant Amir Vale oversaw Talani troops' final drills, ensuring they could defend themselves and their allies. Even the youngest pilots learned complex maneuvers, their small ships darting through simulated enemy fire. As the fleet assembled in the void, humanity's presence was massive. Ships of all shapes and sizes stretched across space, a glittering river of light ready to face the Karn Dominion. Trent walked along the horizon's observation deck. Beside him, Dr. Miles studied a star chart. "This is bigger than any war we've fought," she said softly. "Are we ready?" Trent's eyes shone with determination. "We are more than ready. We are humanity. When we fight for others, no empire can stand against us." The warning came the next day. Karn forces appeared on the edge of the system. Massive warships, plasma turrets glowing red, and energy shields humming like thunder. They had anticipated humanity's movements and were ready to strike first. Trent stood on the command deck. All ships, battle stations. Today we show them why humanity protects the helpless. Today we fight for every voice that calls for aid. Today we bring our wrath. The fleet surged forward. Human ships moved like a living organism. Shields interlocking, weapons synchronized. For every Karn strike there was a calculated response. For every loss humanity retaliated tenfold. Blue beams cut through the red. Plasma exploded in the void. And humanity's fleets advanced with relentless precision. Amid the chaos, Dr. Miles guided hacking teams through Karn networks, disabling weapons and opening routes for boarding parties. Talani ships, once defenseless, now darted among enemy lines with courage and skill. Sergeant Amir led ground troops in boarding actions, striking at the core of enemy vessels. Each captured ship became an addition to the fleet, each rescued prisoner a new ally in the fight. Humanity's influence spread with every maneuver. As night fell over the stars, the battle paused briefly. Both sides counted losses, but the difference was clear. Humanity had taken the fight to the Karn, not just defended against them. Captain Trent looked out from the horizon's deck. "They will remember this day," he said softly. "They will remember that when the helpless call for aid, humanity comes, and they will remember the wrath that follows those who dare to destroy life." Dr. Miles placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've only just begun," Trent nodded. "Yes, but together, we will be unstoppable." Above them, the stars stretched endless and bright. Humanity's fleet gleamed like a beacon. The message was clear to the galaxy. Wherever there is fear, wherever there is injustice, humanity will rise, not just as warriors, but as protectors, and the Karn Dominion would learn. Sooner or later, that mercy can turn into fury, and fury can become unstoppable. The Karn Dominion had underestimated humanity from the beginning. They had thought humans were just another species, willing to protect only themselves. They were wrong. Humanity did not fight for power or fear. Humanity fought for life and for justice. Captain Elias Trent stood on the command deck of the UES Horizon, his hands resting on the rail as he watched the combined human fleet stretch across the void. Thousands of ships shining like stars themselves waited for the signal. Every crew member, from seasoned admirals to fresh recruits, knew the task ahead. This was the moment to strike at the heart of the Karn Dominion and end their reign of terror once and for all. Dr. Lena Miles approached him, her face calm but intense. "Captain, the final plans are ready. All strike teams are in position, and the data we stole from the Nexus shows the weak points in their systems. If we act together, we can cripple their entire fleet." Trent nodded. "Then we give them no mercy. Prepare the fleet. Today the galaxy will remember what humanity stands for." The target was the Karn Central Citadel, the seat of their empire. Orbiting a barren, blackened planet, the Citadel was massive, a fortress of steel, energy, and living power. Thousands of Karn ships guarded it, and their shields pulsed with red energy drawn from countless enslaved worlds. Trent gave the order. "Advance. Stealth approach until we are within striking distance. Once in range, execute Operation Wrathfire." The fleet moved silently through the void. Human ships used every technique and maneuver learned from decades of exploration and battle. They slipped past sensors, masked their energy signatures, and positioned themselves perfectly around the Citadel. Dr. Miles, monitoring the enemy systems, whispered, "This is it. Once we hit, it will be impossible for them to recover." Trent's jaw tightened. "Good, let's make it count." The attack began with precision. Blue beams of human energy struck the Citadel's shields at calculated intervals, weakening the defensive network. Missiles, enhanced with adaptive targeting systems, penetrated deep into the Citadel's hull. Karn ships fired back, their red beams slicing through space, but they could not match the coordinated assault. Every human vessel knew its role, and every strike was synchronized. Sergeant Amir Vale led boarding teams into the largest enemy vessels, cutting through corridors filled with Karn soldiers. Human squads moved like shadows, silent but deadly. They rescued prisoners along the way, Talani and other species who had suffered under Karn rule, and liberated them from their living energy pods. Amid the chaos, Seville, now a young Talani pilot, flew a small strike ship alongside human fighters. He weaved through Karn turrets, firing with skill and courage far beyond his years. Humanity had given the Talani more than safety. They had given them hope and the ability to fight for themselves. Inside the horizon, Trent monitored the battlefield, every sense alert. He saw human bravery in every flash of light, every ship maneuver, every rescue. Humanity had come to liberate, but their power was unstoppable. Dr. Miles shouted over the comms, "Captain, I've hacked the Citadel's core systems. We can shut down the energy flow from the enslaved planets." Trent grinned. "Do it." With a few precise commands, the life-giving energy that powered the Karn Dominion began to falter. Red beams dimmed. Shields flickered. The great Citadel shuddered as the enslaved world's power was cut off. A ripple of chaos spread through the Karn ranks. Ships lost coordination, their weapons malfunctioned, and soldiers panicked. Humanity's plan was working. The final assault was a symphony of controlled fury. Human ships moved as one, striking from every angle. Bombs tore through hulls. Beams pierced shields. Boarding parties cut through every stronghold. In the midst of the battle, Trent's voice echoed across the fleet. Humanity fights not for power, not for conquest. We fight for life, for justice, and for every voice that calls for help. Today we show the galaxy that mercy is our strength and wrath is our promise. The fleet roared in response, a chorus of determination and courage. Every human ship joined the attack, their combined power overwhelming the Karn defenders. On the Citadel's surface, the final Karn warlord realized the tide had turned. His empire, built on cruelty and fear, crumbled before a force he had never understood. He tried to rally his remaining soldiers, but every command failed. His energy shields flickered and died. His fleet scattered. Humanity had become the storm that could not be stopped. Trent and his boarding team reached the inner core. There, the source of the enslaved energy. Thousands of living beings connected to massive conduits, pulsed weakly. Dr. Miles worked quickly, severing the connections and freeing the prisoners. One Talani elder, freed from a pod, whispered, "You saved us all." Trent nodded. "We promised, and we always keep our promises." Amir stood beside him, exhausted but proud. "They'll never forget this, Captain. The Karn, they thought they were unstoppable." "They were wrong," Trent said. As the Citadel collapsed, the remaining Karn ships attempted retreat. Human forces allowed few to escape. They captured survivors who surrendered and secured them under humane confinement. Humanity fought not for revenge, but to end the threat. From orbit, the horizon watched the Citadel's destruction. Red metal and energy dissolved into sparks and fire, drifting into the void. The heart of the Karn Dominion had been broken. Across the galaxy, enslaved worlds celebrated. Freed beings cheered as human ships brought aid, supplies, and protection. Humanity had arrived not just as warriors, but as liberators. Captain Trent stood on the observation deck, watching the stars glitter like diamonds in the void. Beside him, Dr. Miles spoke softly. "It's done. The Karn Dominion is no more." Trent shook his head. "Not entirely. Some will survive, but they will think twice before threatening anyone ever again." Sarge and Amir joined them. "We gave them mercy, Captain, and when they chose cruelty, we gave them wrath." Trent's eyes shone. "Exactly. Humanity is not just strong. Humanity is unstoppable when we fight for what's right." Dr. Miles smiled faintly. "And the galaxy will remember us." Weeks later, humanity's fleet returned to Varos 4. Talani cities rose from the ruins, stronger and safer. The people celebrated their saviors, singing songs of hope and courage. Children played under skies filled with stars, unafraid of the dark. Trent walked among them, seeing the joy on their faces. "We came to help," he said quietly to Dr. Miles, "and we did more than that. We gave them a future." Lena nodded. "They asked for help, and humanity arrived. But what we brought wasn't just help. It was hope. And our wrath, when needed, is a warning to any who would harm the innocent." Amir smiled at Seville, now piloting a new Talani craft. "Remember, young one, protect what's right. And never forget who stands beside you." The Talani boy nodded, eyes wide with understanding. Humanity had shown them strength, mercy, and courage. In the silence of space, humanity's ships drifted among the stars, a shining network of protection. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. When the helpless call, humanity comes. And when those who threaten life rise, humanity answers with wrath. Captain Trent gazed into the endless black. "This is just the beginning," he said. "There are more stars, more voices to protect. Humanity's watch never ends." And so, across countless worlds, humanity became legend, a force of mercy and wrath, of hope and protection, and a promise to all that no one would face evil alone. The galaxy would never forget.